Today, our topic specifically about why Africa is struggling to develop, or why Africa is struggling to unite as one continent. This is the reasons why many Africans they may fail to understand why Africa cannot unite as one continent. Yet many Africans they yearning for the same dream. They all have that same determination for Africa to unite as one continent. So today we are here to talk about three key facts why Africa is struggling to unite as a continent. It's also struggling to unite, but this one, there are the three key reasons. One is national interest. When we talk about national interest, you realize that every African government is elected or appointed to protect its country security, to protect its country political system, is elected to protect its political ambition, which always makes it difficult for Africa to have that one power of unity to make something possible for the Africans. For instance, let's take a look at Nigeria. Nigeria has often focused on protecting its large domestic economy, sometimes even restricting imports from other neighboring African countries in order to improve the industrialization in Nigeria. Why do they do this? Because there is high production of domestic products that are being produced in Nigeria as we talk right now, since they have the largest population in Africa. So when there is that high population and high productions of domestic products, so a country will automatically stop the imports of other products from other neighboring countries. How can this affect? This can affect the unity of Africa in terms of business, and in terms of export and import trade. So when a country is in such a scenario, then neighboring country will always be very difficult for them to produce the goods from their own countries and sell it to Nigeria, which can also improve the economy of their neighboring country. But Nigeria is no longer doing that. Why? Because their production is already high. They already have the high production of domestic products within Nigeria. So it always makes it difficult for such country to give the opportunity for other neighboring countries to always be very, very, very difficult. So these are one of the reasons why Africa is struggling to unite as a continent. Look at South Africa. When we talk about South Africa is one of the most industrialized country in Africa as we talk, but they have prioritized their own industry and employment. Imagine when it comes to the period of when it reaches the period of economic hardship, what happened. They always cause this tension. They always cause this tension from the tension of the immigration from other African countries, which has over time strained the relationship of South Africa and the other neighboring countries. This one was also a very serious consequences when we talk about the unity of Africa as a continent. So these things, they always come with the impact on Africa as a continent. The impact will always be there. Trade agreement, trade agreement can be delayed when a country is prioritizing everything for its own but not for the continent as Africa. Trade agreement can be delayed, and then regional infrastructural projects can also move slowly. You know what this can mean when the regional infrastructure, they are moving slowly. It always slows down that agreement between the Africa. So when we dive into the second reasons or the second key facts why Africa is still struggling to unite as a continent, you will find that we have this one common challenge in Africa, that is the security challenges. So when we talk about security challenges, Africa has many different political systems and security situation in the continent. Some African countries, they're stable, while some African countries, they are unstable. In countries, they're going through wars. Other African countries, they're going through terrorism. Other African countries, they're going through military coups. So this one always makes it difficult for Africa to have this common decision making. It always makes it harder for Africa to have that common decision making, which is always very terrible for a continent as Africa. Take example of South Sudan. South Sudan, they have experienced a prolonged political instability and conflict. These conflicts have been limiting the ability of a country as Sudan to participate fully in regional initiatives. So when a country is always unstable, or there are recurring conflicts that is going on in a country, it always makes it difficult for other countries in Africa to unite with them and make a common decision making. This is the same thing that Sudan is going through, South Sudan. So they add these recurring conflicts, which always affects a lot for them to participate fully in the African unity or in the African continental free trade area. It always makes it difficult for them to participate fully. And you realize that when a country is stable, a country is not going through any military corps, a country is not going through terrorism, a country is settled, they have that peace of mind. It always makes it simple. It always makes it simple for Africa to come as one, to unite and make that common decision making for the African. For instance, let's take a look at Somalia. They have spent many years dealing with security threats from extremist group, which was affecting regional stability between the Islamic militant group and Al-Shabaab Al-Shabaab group and the Somali government. This war was there in Somalia for so long, which was also delaying Somalia to cooperate with the African Union. So it is always the African Union to come and support them in the war. For instance, when we take a look at Uganda was sending the UPDF to Somalia to fight for peace in Sudan. So such situation, when it's always there, it can always makes it very difficult for Africa to unite as a continent. So on this perspective alone, you realize that there are also impacts. So the impacts that may come with this challenge of security, it always makes the government to focus on internal security rather than continental integration. So when a government or when a country within Africa they're having war within that territory, so that country always focus on that internal conflict within the country, which will always makes them to abandon other issues within Africa as a continent. They will automatically abandon such. So regional organization sometimes they may disagree on how to respond on crisis. This may also come with the impact, like the regional organization, they may sometimes disagree on how to handle the crisis that may be affecting our country in Africa. It will always be very difficult for the regional integration that the African Union to come up with that one solution to respond to a crisis that is affecting one country that is going through the internal conflict or the political rivals. It always makes it difficult. Investors can also become cautious about cross-border projects. Why? Because when the country is unstable, when the country is having conflict, that an investor may fail, that loss may occur when he or she invests in a country where there is conflict. There is that high chance of making loss. There is that high chance of getting it wrong when you invest in such country. This can also delay the process of the blacks to unite as one continent. So when we dive into the third reason, which is the economic inequality and limited regional integration. So African economies always differs greatly. Why do I do? Why do you say like this? Because some African countries they rely heavily on the export of raw material instead of export of finished goods. When we talk about exports of raw material and exports of finished goods, these are two different things. In the exports of raw material, this is where real in the export of raw material, this is where a country earns a small amount of money from the trade that is being done. While the exports of finished goods, this is where our country exports of finished goods and they earn a lot out of it. So the real money is always made in the export of finished goods. So when a country focuses on exports of finished goods, they always make that great amount of money which can change the economy of a country. So in Africa we have other countries which are still exporting raw materials. Take a look at Democratic Republic of Congo. So when you are to compare Democratic Republic of Congo and Botswana, so Botswana they have relatively managed the diamond revenues successfully, while Democratic Republic they failed because of those two challenges. That is the poor governance and poor infrastructure. Those two key challenges. It is making it very difficult for Democratic Republic of Congo to unite with Africa as a continent because of those two challenges. But Botswana, they've managed the diamond revenues so successful at the extent that the citizens of Botswana are also benefiting from it. So we have very many African countries with different challenges concerning the security, concerning the economy, concerning the political challenges, concerning the security challenges. Those things they really affecting. When you dive into the impact that may come with such, so you find that business within the continent as Africa, they may delay at the border, may come with issues like high transport costs. When you are also to look into the history of Africa, you'll find that the trade or the trade within Africa country, or the trade between Africa and continent like Asia, countries like continent like Europe, you'll find that it is really very low. When you are to compare trade within Africa, historically, trading within Africa record is very low, while trading within Africa and other continents, the record is really very good when you actually look at the record. So when we dive into the conclusion, you'll see that Africa has made important progress through institutions like the African Union and the African Continental Free Trade Area, but unity still remain challenging because of number one, that is the national interests often take priority. Then the second one, that is political system, then security differences that reduces trust and cooperation between African countries. Then the third one, that is the economic disparities and infrastructure limitation, which makes integration more difficult for African countries. So these are three key challenges that have been delaying Africa from uniting as a continent. These are the real three facts. So if it's still your first time in my channel, please subscribe, like. This is the channel where we talk about African story, African daily reality. We talk about the reality that is going on in Africa. We don't base on emotion, but we base on realities. Well-structured point of view than basing on emotion. Where Africa is going, we need to focus on reality rather than focusing on emotion that can tarnish the hard work that have been done by the African Union to unite Africa as one continent. Stay tuned. This is Kainet TV. We love you.